Yes,
Yes, I
we could see it.
can see the slide.
All right, thank you. All right, so this set of chapters includes chapter 9, which is weight management and overweight, obesity, underweight, and it was posted a lecture by Dr. Barbara Amir. Hope everybody had a chance to look at that. If not, do that. It's a recorded lecture she did on that. So really importance it gets to, she speaks to about some clinical connections, some of the pharmacology, some of the drugs. You're not going to be held to know many of that detail. That was to make important connections and kind of see a professional in the field. She's a pharmacologist, a diabetes educator, and many years of experience in academia and in industry. So I hope you enjoy that and get a lot out of that. The other part we have here is some key things to know about vitamins, water soluble, fat soluble, and I have kind of highlights from the textbook, and hopefully what the exercises in MindTap are helping you get familiar with. So if you think of just if you close your eyes and think of vitamin E and a few things about vitamin E, or you close your eyes and think about niacin, kind of characterize it as, first of all, water soluble or fat soluble, because that has implications on its absorption, mainly its absorption, and how long it might last in our bodies. Not much do we need to know about metabolism of vitamins. We have to get them out of food and then absorb them, and we don't do metabolism on them like we do for the macromolecules. So these are called micronutrients, and some of them are called trace, and it's to do with the recommended quantities that we need to stay healthy. And so here's our next exam is coming up. It will again be open for a few days that you choose a convenient time to take it, use the Respondus lockdown, and it be the similar format, a few less of the short answer. I'll give you some examples of what short answer questions might be. And usually there's a pretty wide range of how to get most of the points from them. Well, that actually that's not right. That should not be fill in. It's true false. So mainly multiple choice fill in, and then the short answer that are worth a few more points each, and you'll see that detail, but it's similar to the previous two exams.
Professor, I
Yeah.
just have a question.
Hi, yeah.
Hi. It says it's open July 26th to the 28th. It's different than the date that you, I thought it was from Sunday to Wednesday. Which one is right?
Sunday, 24th, right. Yeah, we'll go by what I posted. So this is, so yes, it'll be open Sunday. And did I say through the 28th or 27th? I don't know. I want to give plenty of time because people are
I think
busy.
you said the 24th. This would fit better, I think, the 26th, 28th. I don't know with everybody because it's too much of the materials. Like I'm only on
Yeah.
chapter 11 right now. Like
It is.
I still have two.
There's a lot of material. And I hope I give a flavor for how much depth and how much we should we all know about each of the vitamins, because there's 13 vitamins, 9 water soluble, 4 fat soluble, and if you could say a couple of things about each, or something unique about them. Many of the B vitamins, especially, have sort of overlapping roles, and sometimes it's not easy to distinguish something about them, like the difference between riboflavin and niacin, for instance, both very involved in energy metabolism. They, however, if you think of a deficiency of niacin and a deficiency of thiamine, say, there's difference in where we see the symptoms of deficiency. I posted also a way to study vitamins and minerals. Now you might have, sort of a thing that you've created already in notes. You might have some of these commercially available, which is not bad to have. Just in general for our knowledge, nutrition, it's the uh, plastic plastic coated things that that are helpful just to have, especially if you're uh, in or going into health related professions. It's nice to have such an item that you can get at the bookstore, kind of a handy portable and rugged information sheet packed with the information. So I posted something that you might use or get an idea from. It's a Word document. And within these slides, I have an example of the first page of it. And it's sort of a matrix of the vitamin or mineral, what its principal role is, what's the known deficiency, symptoms, maybe a couple of foods that are rich in that vitamin. And it's generally, of course, good information for us to have and know about for our own health. Okay. And that was the lecture that was recorded and posted last week. So I'll mention a few, reiterate some of the things that she said and things that you are seeing in the textbook, some familiar figures. Here are some questions to think about. Obesogenic environment, what is that? How would you advise someone in changing an environment or lifestyle that might be judged as obesogenic? Risk factors with as development of chronic disease for an overweight individual. Diet planning methods that would help weight loss for overweight and obese individuals. Could think about, there's no silver bullet on these, but you could think of a combination of things possibly, including new breakthroughs, some good drugs that are starting to be shown to be successful in reducing and kind of addressing obesity as a disease. Fad, fad diets, that's always a thing. And that was a question in previous exam. How would you, what would you say to someone who just heard on the radio about this great kind of plan and things? Okay, well, there's some questions you could think about, and this is the kind of thing that we'll use in the open-ended question. Okay, prevalence of overweight and obesity, as Dr. Amir discussed and showed these that are in our book, the red states, and then but the point is the direction, the trend, that estimated 70% with latest figures that people in the US are either overweight or obese, and that puts not the care system. Fat cell development, that there's a theory that we kind of have a certain number of fat cells that we have most of our lives, and it's really the size and the metabolism that goes on in each of these cells that could change our body composition to overweight and obese kind of thing. And there's much still to be learned, because fat cells are communicating cells. They're not stagnant as originally was thought in the past. Metabolism depends on the good working of metabolism in the fat cell, and that's the lipases that hydrolyze, again, the stored triglycerides to release energy, fatty acids, energy, or as building blocks for things like hormones and things. So an active fat cell that takes signals, that gives signals, is a healthy one. This set point theory, that's around this idea that that individuals, this homeostasis set point that does not change much throughout lifetime. It's still kind of a theory that it's where our body composition comes from, and a lot of our physiological dynamics around this set point. These two hormones, leptin and ghrelin, they're important things still, really being understood. One promoting appetite, one suppressing appetite, and still, much research going on, and it's hard to pin down. Current conferences that Dr. Amir, from what I hear, and others, still focus on these two, leptin and ghrelin, and how much do we understand them. So really just for us to know that these are important hormones that, the balance, just like the balance of, what can you think of, glucagon and insulin, right, to keep us in balance. For these hormones, ghrelin telling us that kind of we're hungry, and leptin to cease. They take some time to go to be communicated. So that's this idea of eating slowly, that some cultures understand how important that is, to really take our time with eating, so the body dynamics keep things in balance. And we should think about that in our busy, sometimes hectic lives. Okay. This is around this obesogenic environment that maybe we some people get into versus truly that obesity is understood and it's now a disease taken very seriously. There's and how to diagnose one or the other. Is it genetic as a disease, or is it this obesogenic environment that influences people to become overweight, or kind of a combination of those? And what could be done? Physical inactivity, how much planning and thought goes into eating pattern. And of course, the health risks around obesity. It's kind of obese, overweight kind of lifestyle. Unfortunately, for some, hard to break out of. That health declines, and then less apt to kind of work on things to improve, get more active, and think about healthy diet. And obesity-related health risks are those hypertension, fatty liver, abnormal blood lipids, central adiposity. That's that dangerous kind of fat around organs, and prediabetes, diabetes, and other things, sleep apnea. Okay, the following are health risk indicators for healthcare professionals. Okay, body mass index, it's kind of very simple kind of thing. We just need height and weight circumference. Okay, that tells us distribution of give a little bit of a body type piece of data. Disease risk profile, family history. So how would you answer this?
Is it all of the above?
Sure. Yeah, all of the above.
B?
Yes. Right. So those are things that if you're asked, then you might go into mentioning each of those, or a few of them that you could remember. And so aggressive treatment, what's there? And so Dr. Meir talked about some of them, and it really is moving quickly. And a couple of new drugs are exciting to physicians and people really wanting some help. Not easy developing drugs. An average drug takes could take 10, 20 years till it's refined enough and studied enough and funded enough to make it to market. The other is surgery, and there's some success with the two main types of gastric surgery, bypass and banding. I wouldn't ask you detail about that, but know that those are viable options in successful treatment and improvement around obesity. But what you could think about is how this impacts, and there's some discussion of it in the book. What would you be concerned about if around this kind of thing? If this physical either banding or bypassing or kind of closing, limiting the stomach, or what would you think of? Well, we have this physiology and this anatomy to that we've developed and evolved to get the most out of our food, to absorb nutrients. So uh, so there might be issues there. So it needs to be very closely watched, a very strict um, eating pattern to make sure that you get nutrients that this kind of surgery limits. Other weight loss strategies and goals. This is around strategies in really lots of things to improve or to develop good new habits, rewards and psychological, psychosocial support, this kind of things. Good goals, not unreasonable goals. And think of the basics. What do this diet intake diary and analysis like we've done and you're doing in the diet and wellness activities, and look at where the calories coming from, and where small measures could add up over long term. It's always good, and I hope that some of these exercises, and it certainly has for me over the years in studying this, we kind of think about our pattern. What did we consume today? What worked? Whether it was we want to enjoy our food and make slight changes that could make some things more energy, lower energy and still nutrient dense. Where those kids come from? Carbohydrate, it's out of balance. Fiber, really. Physical activity, regular, try to making it a habit, and thinking about how much expenditure we do with physical activity. Even if it's adding biking somewhere or walking somewhere that maybe we don't usually do, and so that's certainly in the thinking of designers, smarter designers of communities and cities, putting in convenient bike paths and walk paths and that sort of thing. Environmental influences that could be, how positive is the environment for good lifestyle and eating patterns. Okay. Yeah, and the best place, of course, for us to learn good habits is when we're young. So that brings up, and many people say this in their discussions and even in posts, is what else can be done effectively in schools, and is that amount in health class and phys ed, is that enough kind of to get kids on the right track for life? we'll come back with some questions I have at the end. We'll just kind of go through highlights of vitamins here. So first, the water-soluble vitamins. They're the B vitamins and C, and we know there's a bunch of B vitamins and C. Each of the B vitamins have numbers, and they're sort of based on chronologic. Vitamins discoveries take a long time because especially nowadays there could be more vitamins that might be declared a vitamin, but it takes a long time for all of the global scientific community to agree that something is a vitamin. And there has been at least one case of a vitamin that was a vitamin in the 1950s for a while, and then it was decided, well, it doesn't meet the criteria for a vitamin, and that was it was called vitamin P at the time, and it wasn't isolated down to a given molecule. It was the flavonoids groups. I know a bit about this because this was my professor was my master's project around the citrus flavonoids, which some of them were in this vitamin P category. That was St. Georgia was the Hungarian scientist who declared and wrote that he found a vitamin. And it was hard to distinguish between vitamin C. P was for permeability, good permeability in tissues, and strength of capillary system and all of in humans. But then it fell out of favor and it lost the vitamin status of vitamin P. But still, it's still a really good indicator that flavonoids in the phytochemical category are really important to have regularly, and a lot of them come in citrus fruit and just generally colored fruit. St. Georgia isolated this, what he called the vitamin P isolate, from peppers, red peppers, and paprika, and found in animals at least that it improved blood circulation. And it was just at the time they were getting good ways to study blood circulation in the 50s. All right, vitamins support health, and they're discovered by withholding them and then looking to see what happens to health and trying to say, okay, if you don't have vitamin C for months, what happens? What symptoms do you get? What starts to go wrong? What malfunctions and that kind of thing. So that's vitamin C is said to be the first vitamin that was discovered, and that was sailors, the English sailors, when they went out and ran out of citrus and they were out on sea for weeks or months, they began getting these symptoms of bruising easily, terrible gums, bleeding gums, poor recovery from hard work and that sort of thing. And then so it was kind of studied then, because it was observed that, and then they made sure that they had enough citrus on board. So that was kind of the early experiments, and then the sailors didn't suffer this kind of thing, and then it became a little more controlled experiments, and vitamin C was identified. Bioavailability is important for all for vitamins. And what does that mean? That means they have to be present in the food, and they have to be absorbed and efficiently. So two things around that. And the vitamins vary with among one another how well they're absorbed. Right? All the iron that we get in food, a lot of it we don't absorb very well. Well, the same with calcium, or sometimes It has to be a combination of vitamins and sometimes minerals to get good absorption of things, of these nutrients. There's some cases of a vitamin that we get in food, precursors for the vitamin, and then in our body, one like beta carotene. Beta carotene is a precursor for vitamin A, and we kind of split it, and it makes two equivalents of vitamin A. And beta carotene is the thing we get in orange colored food, yellow colored food. This there'll probably be a question about this. So why don't we, if something's good, why not more and more and more is better? So this is dose and effects concept. That it's not always true that increase is better. There is usually a leveling off of benefit when we increase, and this especially with vitamins. And there's also some of this possibility that more and more, and at some point, it becomes negative, becomes harmful, and some of the the fat-soluble vitamins could build up and not be good if we have too much vitamin A and we store a lot of it in the liver, or vitamin E, take crazy amount of vitamin E. We may accumulate it in or around organs, which is not healthy. B vitamins, coenzymes, they're mainly coenzymes, and that means assist enzymes with energy use. Most of them are involved with that. For most of them, there is a recommended amount, and in some cases, maybe it's just an approximate amount, and maybe not a specific range, an adequate intake AI. Acting as a coenzyme in this caricature from the book, we have enzymes. They have to work on, say, they're making A and B to make AB complex. Well, the vitamin may have to be there, serve as a basis, a seat for them to get intimate with the enzyme. So the enzyme then does what it needs to. So that's working as a coenzyme or a cofactor. All right, thymus. So we see, if we look at a detailed map of our energy systems, that is glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport, we see thiamine as well as other B vitamins, but at many of the steps that act as a coenzyme. In this case, this important step here, pyruvate to acetyl-CoA. That goes from anaerobic metabolism to aerobic metabolism to the TCA cycle. So that change from the 3-carbon pyruvate to the acetyl-CoA, the 2-carbon, is really important. Thiamine B1 plays role in healthy nerve system as well as muscle system. So many of these things are, at least what we need to know, that generally they're involved. Energy and nervous system is the big goal for thiamine. And there's many sources of thiamine. So these kind of plots show us slight difference in recommended amounts for women and men, and then some of the outstanding sources. But we don't necessarily have to eat pork chop. The servings on these kind of things. they tell us what the serving is, but you can look at some of the, oh yeah, so this is fortified breakfast cereals. That's like take a vitamin, a lot of them. And it's not clear how well we absorb from something like a vitamin pill, vitamin capsule, or whatever, or vitamin drink, or fortified breakfast cereal compared to naturally in food. Lots of times that there's other things that help absorbance or bioavailability in food that maybe with taking a multivitamin we get less absorption. I don't take a multi every day, but I'm still thinking that possibly the RDAs don't fit everyone and for your activity, not necessarily. And some of it's doing some experiment on yourself. If, you know, if, for instance, we feel a little fatigued, more than we like, you might try a multivitamin and to see if something in there, one or two of the B vitamins or something helps us. And even though a lot of the literature and stuff say that we don't need multivitamins, we get enough, I'm not totally convinced. And I personally feel it that the multi helps me. Okay, riboflavin. So with this flavin ending, this is riboflavin and niacin have these structures that are really important because they make up these molecules that are important for electron transfers. So it's certainly in energy metabolism. So they could be oxidized and reduced. So, and again, important in energy metabolism. And no upper limit. What does that tell us? That means we don't know at what level does it ever become toxic. It could be, but it's not studied well enough that if you take this much riboflavin, so some of the good sources of riboflavin, dairy there. And niacin. So niacin also energy and also just generally you could see it in the metabolic maps. You could see riboflavin, niacin throughout, and we don't have to know more detail than that. But niacin, we should remember this, that pellagra shows up as this kind of symptom because these some of these B vitamins, they are involved with the metabolism and energy. These are that assist in rapidly changing, rapidly repairing, and skin is something that we're always rapidly repairing. If we have a deficiency in something that keeps those systems running right, then it will reflect in something like this, like pellagra. And when we lose our defense of our skin, that could be very serious. So that's the importance of pellagra. Niacin, sometimes niacin is given to treat skin conditions, and sometimes it's much higher doses. And there's even prescriptions for niacin. A physician might prescribe. Some of the toxicity, there's a niacin, it's called niacin flush, where it's not completely understood, but some people would get just heated in the face as a toxicity. And biotin also, you see that it's in the critical in the TCA cycle. So again, energy. It's also has some other roles. a little more expanded gluconeogenesis. So that's when we, if you remember, if we run out of glycogen, we run out of glucose, we could sometimes manufacture a certain amount of glucose, and thus the name gluconeogenesis, from other substrates like the backbone from glycerol or from some of the proteins, amino acids rather. Okay, so that's biotin. Sometimes biotin is taken for healthy nails and hair as a supplement, or to stimulate better growth of those. Pantothenic acid, maybe the least known of the vitamins. It's a part of coenzyme A, so pretty important in energy metabolism. One note about pantothenic acid: some of these vitamins, they're all organic. Remember that. They're carbon-based. Some of them have some nitrogen, but they're and therefore carbon compounds could be destroyed, and pantothenic acid is one of the ones that is destroyed a little more readily by freezing, canning, and processing. So next we have B6 and B12. So these have a little more expanded role in metabolism of macromolecules. So to assist in protein building, and also very importantly, genetic material, DNA, RNA. And so that's what you should just remember about that. B6. Oh, folate. So folate is it's another B vitamin. Has other names: folacin, folacinic acid. It's important in helping synthesize DNA. That's pretty important. It works with B12, with vitamin B12. So really important in DNA. So folic acid, you might know that this is an important supplement for pregnant women, to make sure that they're getting enough folic acid, because it's so important in making new cells and quickly dividing cells and making healthy DNA. And so it's one that has a bit of a more complicated absorption, in that it has sort of a carrier B12 assisted folic acid absorption, and also mechanisms. So it associates with B12. Folate, we mentioned pregnant women, and folate, when it was recognized how important it is in healthy births, some foods were fortified with folate, like grains were fortified. What we have down there, grain is fortified to prevent, in particular, these neurotube defects, and most notably spina bifida. Used to be a problem 50 some or more years ago. Now, with fortified food, it's much less of an issue. Another symptom of folate deficiency is anemia. So ill-formed B12 So B12, we should also, again, think of synthesis of DNA, RNA. It also has a bit of a complex way that it's absorbed. It B12 for its absorption. Whoop. Oh, it's not shown here. B12 requires in the stomach sort of an activated complex to make sure that it's absorbed efficiently. And B12, if any of the vitamins are more difficult to get for people that don't eat meat, the B12 is one that say vegetarians and vegans have to make sure they get in other sources, because a lot of people get their B12 in meats and dairy. We don't have to recall too much. Kind of choline is a it's grouped with the B vitamins, doesn't have too much of an identified clear role, so it's not really an official vitamin, just to mention it here to be complete. And some other things of note, substances of note, but not at full vitamin status. And here's the bioflavonoids. This is the thing that was at one time called vitamin P. So we just mentioned a few things that some vitamins assist each other and some interactions. Beriberi and pelegri. So these are two of the known symptoms of deficiency: thiamine and niacin. Beriberi, also kind of terrible decline of skin and organ. So when we have deficiency in vitamins that assist in building and repair, then we get some of these kinds of symptoms. And vitamin C. Vitamin C is know about vitamin C. It's not the same as the B vitamins, so it's mostly protects against oxidative damage. So it's an antioxidant. So free radicals are these unpaired electrons that could be could react with things we don't want them to react with. So we need some ways to quench them or to react with them before they might hit something more important like DNA or something. It's vitamin C is also a cofactor in healthy collagen, bone matrix. And some other roles. Vitamin C has a bunch of overlapping roles with other important nutrients. So here's that bleedy gums, weak capillaries, and scurvy was what was identified as that kind of disease or set of symptoms that they saw in sailors at sea that ran out of vitamin C containing food. And is sources of vitamin C. You can see down there at the bottom, colored vegetables and fruits Okay, so the B vitamins, is a summary of what we know, what we should know about them. And the fat soluble vitamins. So there's 4 of them. They have unique roles from the water solubles and unique from one another. We should know at least a few items about each of these, and we'll just mention a few things about them. Vitamin A has a few main roles in vision, in reproduction, and in rapid growth, things like skin. And I mentioned beta carotene. Here's just the structure of beta carotene. It splits to give 2 equivalents of the 3 types of vitamin A. Each of these have slightly different roles of the 3 main roles that shown here for vitamin A, supporting retinol, supporting reproduction, health, retinal, vision, and other regulating of growth, the retinoic acid. Here's some detail, some interesting detail. Wouldn't ask you about it, but you can see some chemistry there, cis and trans. Interesting of how we see or distinguish between light and dark. Okay. And here's its role in reproduction and growth. Vitamin A toxicity, yeah, you can have too much of soluble vitamins. If we're eating, say, in our eating pattern, just a ton of carrots, well, yeah, and we know that they're healthy. They have a good amount of vitamin A. But if we notice that our hands and bottom of our feet are turning orange, that's actually from the accumulation of vitamin A. I experienced this when I was just in college. I, for some reason, ate lots and lots of carrots and didn't realize, but then saw that I was kind of turning orange. It was too much beta carotene. Okay, vitamin D. Vitamin D is if we're asked about special role of vitamin D, it acts as a hormone also, so assists in the critical balance of calcium and phosphorus absorption for bones and healthy nervous system. And so vitamin D, we know that we can get precursor in certain foods, but we also can manufacture it on our own through sunlight and providing precursor. The precursor is a derivative of cholesterol, and then it goes through a couple of organs to become the active vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency is a serious issue with many. And that's because bone health could suffer without vitamin D to assist in metabolism of calcium and phosphorus and just building of healthy bones. Vitamin E is an antioxidant. Again, similar to one of the roles of vitamin C. vitamin D, a deficiency could occur if there's malabsorption of fat, it being a fatty, fat-soluble vitamin. It's notable to see that vitamin E is destroyed, along with the other fat-soluble vitamins, could be destroyed by oxygen and heat for their oxidation. Okay, and the last fat-soluble vitamin, vitamin K, has clotting, K blood clotting. So it's very important in assisting the sequence that takes place for normal blood clotting and production of fibrin. It's interesting to note that vitamin K is the first injection that we all get as newborns, because we want to have that clotting vitamin on board. Then we're not born with a lot of vitamin K, so we get that injection of it. You see there it says sterile gut, no vitamin K producing bacteria. So there are a couple of vitamins that we get help from our microflora, from our gut microbes to produce. And vitamin K is one of them. We get some biotin made by our microbes and some vitamin B12. Okay, here's what we should know about the fat-soluble vitamins. Talk a little bit about water. Water is our majority made up of water, inside and outside of our cells. 60–70% of our mass is water. Water is where our electrolytes move around inside and outside of the cell, things like phosphorus and phosphate, S-phosphate, potassium, magnesium, sulfate, sodium, chloride, and calcium. And water serves to hydrate and move these ions around. See that each of these blue are water around the charged electrolyte. How is this regulated? By a couple of hormones, ADH, and that's from the hypothalamus, and renin. So we have hormonal balance of body fluid, and how we reabsorb and keep balance of both water and electrolytes is a special job of kidneys and kidney filtration system. Okay, especially these days of warm summer, or some fitness activity, it's important to stay hydrated and not thirst, but stay ahead of dehydration. Minerals. Minerals are inorganic. They cannot be destroyed. And we have requirements for minerals, some at higher amounts than others. Here's a list of the major and trace minerals. Calcium, we need the most, and phosphorus, potassium, all the way down to the trace minerals shown here, but they're just as important, but we don't need them in very large amount. Sodium is the principal cation of outside fluid. It has a number of roles there you could see there. Most everybody doesn't have a problem with getting enough sodium. In fact, we get, in general, too much sodium, as 2300 is the recommended intake, not more than that, but the average person gets 3,400 milligrams of sodium, or 3.4 grams. That's a couple or a little more than teaspoons. So that's a lot, and it's because it's hidden in a lot of the foods that people eat, and is not just hypertension, but also associated with high intakes of sodium. And there's ways to look at where the sodium comes from. For instance, processed foods has a lot of hidden sodium. So simply go and try as much as possible to not consume as much processed foods. Chloride is the major anion or negative anion outside in the extracellular fluid. It's important that it's also a part of the acid in our stomach, hydrochloric acid. Potassium is the principal intracellular cation, intracellular, inside the cell. It maintains electrolyte balance, aids in nerve impulses, and deficiencies could be seen in blood pressure, salt sensitivity, kidney stones, irregular heartbeat, muscle fatigue, and glucose intolerance. And potassium is a nutrient that is commonly low in many people's diets. Calcium, most abundant mineral in the body. Another one that many people are deficient in their eating pattern. Important in bones and teeth. And it's also an electrolyte in body fluids. Important in these activities: muscle contraction, transmission of nerves, secretion of hormones. There's important mechanisms for calcium balance, including vitamin D. We mentioned acts as a hormone to regulate and involved in proper metabolism and direction of calcium. So calcium, vitamin D, these are critical nutrients. Phosphorus, second most abundant mineral in the body. It's important in bones. A buffer system can maintain pH in the body. It's an important part of many important molecules such as DNA and RNA and ATP, our energy currency. So it's just an energy. Magnesium, also teeth and bones. It's involved in energy, proper energy production. Sulfate, though, sulfate is not really a mineral. It's an ion. That's why it's grouped here. Sulfate, SO4 2-. Okay, and here's our summary, what to know about minerals and water. And now just a quick look at trace minerals. These are the trace minerals: iron, zinc, copper, magnesium, iodine, selenium, and fluoride. Iron, maybe the most important of them. Two forms of iron. Iron really important with enzymes making all our chemistry involved in energy. A couple of ways that it's stored and moved around. Ferritin is how we store iron, transfer, and how we move it around. Iron absorption is critical. It varies with the type. For instance, heme iron that is in animal sources versus non-heme iron. Heme iron is absorbed better from those foods than non-heme iron. Few factors that can inhibit iron absorption. Some phthalates, which are found in legumes, certain proteins, calcium in milk, and iron absorption, and some plant phytochemicals could inhibit absorption. Okay, really important, iron deficiency. Anemia, of course, iron is an important part of our red blood cells carrying oxygen. And so with iron deficient red blood cells, they're impaired. They don't work properly. Zinc. Zinc has some roles with DNA. Zinc is important. So where do we get that? Seafood is a good source of, and some meat. Just a well-balanced diet, we usually get enough zinc. Iodine, important in our thyroid hormones, regulating temperature, metabolic rate, growth, nerve and muscle. One of the most outstanding pieces of information about thyroid deficiency develops this goiter condition, which throws off a lot of those maintenance hormones. So those that control temperature and regular nerve impulses and breathing and all these things that we don't necessarily think about, involuntary important things. Selenium, a trace ion, a trace mineral. Copper, there's some enzymes that need copper. Manganese, so these are trace but have important roles in various areas of normal metabolism. Fluoride, so fluoride we could think of, that's protection of teeth, normally processed or water supplies have fluoride to protect people's dental health. Okay. All right, there's some study guides for you to look at. Here's a picture of many B vitamins you can see throughout our normal energy scheme there. See how important the B vitamins are. Here's a way to think of all these things and put them into handwritten or typewritten. I gave you a Word document, but you can put together something like this to put down some of the most important features for each of the vitamins and minerals. And here's an example of that. You can even, look at that. There's many of them here, the B vitamins. Okay, a few type of questions. What type of questions should we be ready to answer? Which of the following contributes most to the weight of the body? That's water. What iron-containing compound carries the oxygen in the bloodstream?
Hemoglobin?
Okay, that's right. Hemoglobin, good. And so, of course, that means healthy red blood cell. Okay, you think of which of the, we mentioned a few important vitamins involved with healthy red blood cells. Okay, FAD, coenzyme FAD, is formed from what vitamin? Okay, so this is sort of an oxidation reduction kind of molecule, really important in energy, and it happens to be flavin. So this first, in this acronym, it's flavin, and then adenosine, I don't remember D is, but the flavin. Okay. Which of the following is not among the features of the fat-soluble vitamins? So let's see. Fat-soluble vitamins, they're like fat, so they're absorbed sort of like fat, so fat needs bile. They are found in fatty parts of food. So if we're kind of don't eat any fat-containing food, we're likely or could have a chance of not getting enough of the fat-soluble vitamins. Transported permanently to the liver and adipose. So if that happens, then we wouldn't ever make use of them. Pose a greater risk of developing toxicity than so that's true. The last one's true.
Yeah.
So it is C. Though vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins, temporarily could be stored in the liver and adipose, but they shouldn't be, and not permanently there. What tissue contains the majority of the body's store of vitamin A?
The retinal cells.
Retinal cells. What are the retinal cells? Okay, so yes, they do use vitamin A. That's not a large store of them. So it would be liver.
Yeah.
Okay, liver. That's why liver, if people eat liver, you have to have a kind of be used to that flavor. But liver does contain a lot of nutrients. It could contain a lot of toxicants also. Liver is a busy organ, also detoxifying organ. What vitamin is involved intensively in amino acid metabolism?
Riboflavin?
Okay, riboflavin is like mainly energy cofactor, energy.
B6?
Please.
B? Okay, it is B6. B6. So B6, B12 are a little bit different than the other B vitamins. The other B vitamins are kind of cofactors in energy-related functions. And vitamin A is that vitamin. It has vision, it has reproduction roles, and it has just general growth role. also in growth and energy. Some of these are hard to distinguish from one another. A person who dairy and spends most of her time indoors would likely benefit from a
D.
supplement of,
D.
right, that's right. Because, yeah, D, we know, we get a lot of it made right on our skin from that cholesterol-like precursor and sunlight. As far as we know, vitamin A does not play a role in which of the following with
A.
A, blood clotting.
I think that's okay, good. So vitamin A roles in the others. Teeth, visual, we know that. And also in this here, mucous membrane is really important, right? Their protection for a lot of things, mucous membrane. Folate deficiency, type of neural tube defect.
D.
That's right. D. Okay, and you should think about what are each of these. Scurvy is a deficiency of what?
C.
Right. C. Beriberi.
E. Oh, wait.
Not niacin. The pellagra is niacin. Beriberi is.
Yeah, this is niacin, right? So
Yes.
beriberi
K.
is the first B vitamin that we mentioned.
That with the
It's B1. It's thiamine.
let's see. Yeah.
Okay. Which is critical role in energy metabolism by virtue of its involvement in acetyl-CoA.
D.
Yes, pantothenic acid. Pantothenic acid. Acetyl-CoA. Right from its structure, it actually kind of acetyl-CoA. Which of the following statements is not true about Gatorade? Okay. Gatorade, which is not true. Electrolytes present faster absorbed than water. Okay, that's the story of Gatorade. So I studied at the University of Florida, which is where Gatorade was developed, invented by Dr. Cade. I met him when I was a student there. Interesting guy. They studied Florida Gator football players, what makes up their sweat, and contrived something to quickly replace those things that are lost in sweat, minus the waste products. And they found that improved so it was their secret weapon for a while in the hot Southeast Conference football. But then made a lot of money for the University of Florida.
It's all of the above, probably, right?
Yeah, they sold it. Yeah, it's I think what was it, Coca-Cola or somebody, some big formulated from study of sweat. That's true. Named from the University of Florida, so that's true. It's actually all of them are true. Okay. Which of the following is not known to be involved in maintaining healthy bones and teeth? Which one of
E.
these?
B.
Which?
Hydroxyapatite. B.
B.
B. Okay, involving, which is not. Actually, that is kind of the compound that is made. So it's not specifically a nutrient. Maybe that's why it threw everybody off. But hydroxyapatite, that's the compound that it puts together protein and calcium to make structures like bone and teeth. Okay, so vitamin E doesn't have a role in teeth, and so vitamin E is the antioxidant character. Electrolytes and water balance maintained by
Is it osmosis?
Right,
Oh.
yeah, we didn't mention this specifically, but you read about it. Osmosis is the movement of water across membranes. So to keep the balance, electrolytes are involved in keeping osmosis working right, to keep the right amount of water inside and outside of the cell. What's meant by bioavailability of a vitamin in food?
Is it B?
B, that are more absorbed and
Yes, right, yes. It's that's right. The amount absorbed and subsequently used by the body. So that's this bioavailability term, which is known to function as a hormone.
Vitamin D.
Right, good. Vitamin D. So K is clotting, alpha tocopherol, that's the precursor for vitamin E. Which of the following is not among the properties of electrolytes?
D.
D is right. Electrolytes. So those are things like chloride ion, calcium ion, sodium ion, potassium ion, and sulfate ion. Okay, they do attract water. They help in this osmosis. They're charged particles, and they do carry electrical current. They're not that soluble. Um, okay. Which of the following explains why B vitamin deficiency lead to lack of energy?
Is it D?
D is right. So yeah, good. D is coenzymes in energy metabolism. So produced in deficiency. Whoops. Okay. The main function of vitamin E in the body is
C.
C is right. And it protects us against D, the free radical production. Free radicals happen just in our normal metabolism. We're not perfect, but we have these mechanisms to get rid of free radicals that could be dangerous, especially to our genetic material. I think just a few more. Pituitary hormone regulates kidney retention of water. Which pituitary hormone?
D.
E is right. Yeah, ADH.
Oh.
Okay, ADH, antidiuretic hormone. All right, and so these are some other things you could think of that might be the short answer type questions, um, and you can look at them uh, at your leisure. There's a fat soluble critical questions and water soluble and fat soluble critical questions. Okay, so okay, I think that's it. I hope this was helpful. As you're thinking through all this, make the connections. Here are really important organs that really rely on vitamins. Well, of course, there's macromolecules, but you could see that the vitamins and minerals have lots of interactions with these critical uh, organs. What is the largest organ we have?
The skin.
That's right. Very good. That that gets everybody. They don't think of the skin as an organ. Okay. All right. I hope this was helpful. Um, and so it's gotten dark here. I'm outside. It's a nice evening. I don't know if you can.
I have a question.
Also,
Just one question.
Yes, go
oh,
ahead.
I have a question. So for the MindTap homework assignments, do we have to do them for all 4 chapters or for this week?
No, they'll stay open because I know that we're crunching stuff, so they'll be open a little more. I'll make sure that they're open so you can have time with them. The last thing we want to cover, and we'll do just portions of it from the life cycle chapters. That is kind of critical features that are special in various parts of a life cycle, infancy, pregnancy, adolescence, adulthood, and older. And we'll pick out things for that, and that'll be for the last exam. Okay, so thanks for asking that. I'll make sure that it's open so that everybody has time to complete those activities.
Thank you, Professor.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna sign off. I'm
Wait.
running. Okay. Any other last questions?
Yes, for the exam, like one of the student mentioned, are you gonna keep it till the 28th or the one on
Oh, what keeping it open, you're saying?
yes, the exam.
The exam. All right.
Mhm.
So yeah, someone said so I'll open it from Sunday and what did I say? Through Wednesday?
I believe to the 27th, but on
Yes.
here it says to the 28th. It would have been way better for the 28th. I'm not ready.
Yeah, okay. That's
Yeah, that
fine.
would be much better if you can just
All right.
It's
stick to it on here.
Yeah. Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel good about it and learn a lot. These are really important things to kind of help stick good knowledge. Okay. All right.
Good
Have a good
night.
evening, good weekend. Stay hydrated, right?
Thanks. You too.
Okay. Good night.